Hey everyone, welcome to another video. My name is Katrina. I'm a non-pro-rainer here in Alberta, and as you can see, Diesel says hi. As you can see, winter is here in Alberta. It's been like minus 30 at night, 30 Celsius, minus 30 Celsius. Very, very cold. Today is the first day where I don't feel like my nose is gonna fall off while I'm doing chores. So yeah, because it is winter, I thought I would do a video just on some winter horse care myths, because I think a lot of people have some ideas about taking care of horses in the winter that aren't necessarily correct. And yeah, just want to steer you guys in the right direction. So let's get into it. So I want you to imagine that all you're allowed to eat is dry oatmeal and dry mini wheats. No water, no milk, and you do not have access to your water bottle or anything like that. I can guarantee you're gonna feel not great. And that analogy is very similar to horses in the wintertime, because if you think about it, all that they are eating, at least around here, is hay, which has way less moisture content compared to the grass that they would eat in the summertime. Like hay might have like 8% moisture content, whereas grass might have like 70% moisture content. So you might think that your horse needs less water in the wintertime, when in fact they might actually need more water in the wintertime. And so it's very, very important that you give your horses 24/7 water access to water that's not freezing cold. And this is what we use here. So we just have an old school water trough, and this keeps the water from freezing. So nice and clean and not freezing cold. You can also use an automatic water or whatever you have set up, but this is important. Okay, so let me tell you a story. When my husband and I were in Arizona several years ago, we went to the Grand Canyon, and when we were there, it was, I think it was over Christmas time, so it's December, so it was cold out. It was probably just above freezing. And so me and Lucas, being the Canadians that we are, we just had, I don't know, fall jackets on. We did not have gloves on. We were holding hands with our bare hands. And this lady, I'm sure most of the people there when we were there were from California. And this lady in a snowsuit saw us holding hands, and she said, "Now that's true love," because she thought it was so cold out that she could not believe we were holding hands with no gloves on. So my point with that story is that there's this myth that if it is cold enough for you to have a jacket on, your horse should have a blanket on. And that is ridiculous, because someone from California is probably way more likely to have a jacket on when it's 10 degrees Celsius outside than I am. I'm not going to have a jacket on when it's that warm out. And so what I'm saying is, like, whether it's cold enough to have a jacket on is definitely what you're used to and just a matter of perspective. And you also have to remember that We are naked mole rats. We do not have hair. This guy is covered in hair. He does not need to have a blanket on when you put a jacket on. Horses are way tougher than that, and putting a blanket on them when it's not terribly cold out could cause them to overheat, get sweaty under their blanket, and is just a recipe for potentially a sweaty horse who then becomes a horse who gets cold because now he's all wet. So yeah, just because your little butt is getting cold does not mean that they are experiencing the exact same thing. So on the flip side of not blanketing your horses when it's not cold enough, there's another myth that you should not blanket your horses, period, which it's a myth. As you can see, my horses have blankets on this time of year, and I have reasons for blanketing my horses. If I take my horses to indoor arenas, I don't want them to be woolly mammoths, because horses get sweaty in indoor arenas and then it takes forever for them to dry. So do not want them to be super, super hairy. Another thing is we get things like freezing rain and super, super wet snow here. If my horses are not blanketed, they're gonna get very wet, and then if it freezes overnight, which it likely would, they are going to be wet, very cold, and shivering, which that can lead to a very, very sick horse. So my horses have blankets. If we end up having a super nice winter day, I take them off for the day. They can just go naked. But yeah, on these really cold days where holding my phone like I am right now is making my fingers freeze, they have blankets on. There's definitely a time and a place. You just need to know what is appropriate. And there's definitely times where, yeah, there might be snow on the ground. I might be able to see my breath, but that does not mean that my horse needs a blanket. Again, they are tougher than we give them credit for, but definitely a time and a place for them. One thing that actually does a lot of damage to horses' health during the winter is that some people think their horses need more feed during the winter because it's cold. In some cases that may be true. If your horse still has the same workload, is getting road lots and that sort of a thing, they definitely might need the same amount of food or even more, because now it's cold on top of that. But for most people, their horses are just pasture ornaments for 5 months out of the year when it's winter. And yes, a horse's caloric needs go up a bit when it's really, really cold. It is likely not as much as you think. And if your horse is, like I said, not active, they probably don't need more hay. They might in fact need less forage, less calories overall. It's really, really important to watch your horse's body score over the winter, just to make sure they aren't getting too overweight. Of course, you don't want them too skinny, but you don't want them, it's not good for horses to be overweight. So especially if you have blankets on your horses, take those blankets off once in a while and check to make sure they're not getting too heavy on you, because that can be very, very hard on a horse. So it's the next day. My fingers got super cold yesterday recording all these clips, so we're continuing our myths today. The myth that you need to keep your horse buttoned up in some sort of barn with, no cold air coming in or out. That is a myth. So I have that barn. My horses do not stay in it. It does not have heat. They are outside. And actually staying in a barn all the time can be really bad. And the for a multitude of reasons. One of those reasons being air quality. The air quality in that barn is horrible. And if I kept my horses in there, I can guarantee they would be coughing and all sorts of stuff, having issues with their lungs. There's enough issues with eating dry hay all year for their lungs that I don't need to add the barn on top of that, because like if I'm hauling to an arena, arenas have really bad air quality as well for the most part. So I want my horses in clean, clear, breathable air rather than in a barn. And as well, like my horses can go out and they can wander around, they can paw, they can just get a bit of exercise on their own when I'm not here, which they would not be able to do if they were in a barn. So definitely a myth that you need to keep your horse in a barn in the winter. I would say if I had to choose, I would probably keep my horses outside.